It is Thursday, April 15th. Amy and Samir here. Samir, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Almost the weekend. Very lovely.
Facebook changed their format again, and I just one other thing I have to do just to get us shared.
Just to share it.
Just extra.
Share it out there.
Unnecessary clicking. But happy to be here, guys.
They like unnecessary clicking.
It's Genre Thursday, and we will be talking about Birdman, part of our Movies About Movies series that is our genre pick for this month. Before we get into that, we are going to be doing a recap of our viewing experience of yesterday's film. Yesterday we talked about Oscar winner Anne Bancroft and her Oscar-winning performance in The Miracle Worker. Oh boy.
God, what a great movie.
Oh, man.
I love this movie.
And I hadn't seen
it's so intense.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this since high school. And I was not expecting to get the reaction that I did out of this movie. First, I felt all these feelings of like extreme frustration, mostly because of Helen Keller's family and how ridiculous, I don't know, of like, it was just frustrating, very frustrating. And then I actually teared up at the end, which doesn't happen often, but it was those feelings.
When she...
Well, no, not even that, when she finally realizes.
When she...
It was the very last moment after everything they've been through, when she finds, was it Annie? Is that her name? Annie Sullivan? Yeah. When she finds
Annie's
Annie,
the teacher. Yeah, Annie
and
Sullivan.
she just like wants to be with her and like hug her and gives her a kiss on the cheek, and then Annie signs like "I love you." Yeah, that part got me. After everything they've been through, and her just like literally throwing her away from her every time, you know, like being afraid, and then to have that moment, I was like,
well, these incredible performances really like sort of beat you up. You feel almost beaten up like by the amount that they're getting beaten up in these scenes. It's like, it's wild. It's so wild to watch these scenes because it's like there's like a reckless abandon that both of these actors are giving. Like Patty Duke, I forgot that she was a Bay Area girl, is just like ridiculous, like incredible. It's so incredible what she does in this movie, because a lot of what makes this movie fascinating is also, it's like there's this sort of like really energetic visual approach to the movie that you're not expecting. You hear a title like this, you hear it's a story about Helen Keller, you think you're going to get this kind of sedate, very stoic kind of style that's not going to get in the way, but really all the camera movements, like it's a tour de force of filmmaking, because there's a lot of long takes. The camera's running around to chase after these characters. And these actors, of course, Anne Bancroft like really puts herself in harm's way because she's very much like, you know, the battering ram for this child. And Patty, I mean, imagine mentally how you process that. Like, I know Patty Duke is not trying to hurt me. Like, Patty Duke is playing this character amazingly, and I'm gonna play my character. But like, you have to think like, you know, this person and connecting with is also like giving me bruises and scratches as a part of the acting of these roles.
They seem like actual slaps.
I think they were. I think they were actual slaps, and somehow because they'd done it on stage, they had a connection. But what makes this movie extra fascinating is that it's also about the idea of the acquisition of language and what happens to a person when they don't have language. And that's really something that Helen Keller devoted her life to speaking about after this experience. So there's a line in the movie where the mother asks, "What will you teach her first?" And Anne says, "First, last, and in between, language." And the mother says, "Language." And Anne says, "Language is to the mind more than light is to the eye." And when, so in Helen Keller's book, The Story of My Life, she quotes this moment. She wrote this book in 1902, said, "Somehow the mystery of language was revealed to me. I knew then that water, water, meant that wonderful, cool something that was flowing over my hand. That living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, joy, set it free. I left the well house eager to learn. Everything had a name, and each new name gave birth to a new thought. And it's you feel that in this movie so much. Like, you understand that basic concept throughout this entire movie, everything Annie is doing. That's why she's so committed. Like, no, I can't. You need to give me more time. I know what can happen. There's not a lot more time left to teach this child language, and language is really the key to everything.
Yeah,
and so you identified with her so much for that. And she's so feisty when she stands up to that doctor and she's like, "Old Stonewall indeed." And he's like, "Blah." Like this southern racist gentleman.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know. I forgot about that element of, him calling her a Yankee. And I don't know how accurate this is as far as what Helen Keller's family was like, but at least in the movie, all the ridiculous things of like, you have 2 weeks to do this. It's like, I'm starting with literally nothing. And then they're like 2 weeks. And then even when she's like, I need a little more time, and they're like, now. And then she's like, give me till 6 o'clock. I have until 6 o'clock to get this going.
She wouldn't give away a single minute. But also another great moment was when, they have one of their, I don't know if they're technically still slaves, because it seems like we're post Civil War at this time. But the little boy who's like, they're like, oh, we'll have the little boy stay with them, so there's someone from the house. Well, she's, not wanting to be with Annie. She keeps pushing her away. And when she can tell that this boy is there and she hugs him, she's like, oh my God, somebody I know. Mm-hmm. Like, she knows him not because of the color of his skin. She knows him as a human being, mm-hmm. because she's literally blind to it. And so it's like this interesting moment where like, oh, like because she can't see, she's not learning. Because she can't see and she can't hear and she can't speak, she's also not learning racism from her family, and because she can't hear how they talk to them, she can't see how they treat them. She only knows them as someone who's there and helps her. So they're comforting to her on a level that's more human and not related to that relationship between the rest of her family and them. So that was a really interesting moment in the movie. But the whole story also reminded me, just 8 years after this movie, the case of Jeannie the Wild Child was discovered. And it was a case where this girl who was 13 had been locked in a room, and every night had been locked in all day was strapped to like a potty training toilet, and lived in a cage in a bedroom, and no one spoke to her. Her parent, like her dad, was super abusive. Her mom was almost blind and was very scared of the dad. So everybody just did what he said and never talked to this child. And when it was discovered years later, by the time she was 13, it was discovered she was there. The dad actually killed himself to avoid prosecution for his crimes of abuse. And so all these linguists started trying to, they're like, okay, well, can we teach her to speak? And so over time, the fact that she never heard anyone speak meant that the part of her brain, the cortex, where all those receptors, that help you learn language, since they're not receiving information, they never get exercised and they just atrophy and wither away. And with that withers away your ability to learn language. So her not hearing anybody speak except for that little bit at the beginning of her life, that little bit may have saved her just enough. And if Annie Sullivan had not come into her life at this point, if it had gone on longer, like, it could have been possible that Helen Keller never would have learned language. And you see the difference in her after she learns language. Before, she's like a feral child, like an animal that can't be tamed. And once she starts to understand language is when she becomes human, really. And that's really the dividing line, anthropologically, between animal and human, is language. But you get this process, like, this is how someone who doesn't have all of these other things, this is how they learn language. And like seeing them using, the alphabet and teaching it, like, it's stuff you don't see in movies very often. This is like early 60s. I feel like we still don't have a movie this good about this kind of thing. And of course, we all know Helen Keller, she graduated cum laude from Radcliffe. She wrote books. She went on lecturing tours. Like, her getting language was an enormous gift to the world, because she she had so much intelligence in her and gumption and drive that she really used it, and really the world is a better place for people with her abilities than it was before. So this really was a miracle that this teacher accomplished. The teacher, Annie Sullivan herself, called it a miracle. I think the movie really does justice to the story overall, and Anne Bancroft like earned every single ounce of gold in that Oscar with this movie, I think.
Same
with Patty Duke.
Yeah.
Just like incredible. I wish Crystal said she met her. Crystal met Patty Duke at the Orpheum because one of the times Wicked was touring, she was in Wicked. Crystal, was she Madame Morrible in Wicked by any chance, if you're still watching and you remember? Because I wasn't there when she was in Wicked. I missed that opportunity. Very, very sad for me, because I would have also had her autograph my copy of Valley of the Dolls. She probably would have been maybe not so happy to autograph that. I don't know.
Well, if you didn't see The Miracle Worker, it is a must-watch for any person who's interested in the Oscars or acting, good storytelling, anything about that. Just give us a watch. It is unfortunately only available to rent currently, but things like that change all the time. But yeah.
And maybe I might also I hope there's a special edition DVD of this movie with more info on the making of it, because this is a really, really fascinating movie that I'm glad that your school was showing it to you. My school was not showing it to me. I wish I'd watched this instead of Dead Poet Society for the 17th time.
Well, again, I watched this in my drama class. Yeah, and I am glad.
That makes sense.
Admittedly, when we were putting the calendar together, this is one that Samir had suggested, and knowing that I had seen it like a while ago, I was kind of like, oh, okay, and he was really firm on having this one be a part of it, and there was another actress that got switched, and it kind of came down between Anne Bancroft and another actress, like, okay, which one do we keep? And he said, we're keeping The Miracle Worker. And I was like, okay. And I'm glad we did, because I really enjoyed watching this again, and was not expecting to feel this way about this movie after all these years.
I know. Yeah, I'm still like a little misty eyed. Like you said, that very like when she teaches the word teacher, and at the end when she seeks her out on the porch, it's like almost making me get there again just thinking about it.
See, those are the moments that get me. Those moments of love. It's the moments of love.
Moments of love.
Yes. Oh,
but yes, I wanted to stand up and cheer, even though I was in my own TV room and I wasn't in a theater.
I was watching myself.
Oh, imagine this in a theater. Can you imagine seeing this happen on a stage in front of you? Like masterclass. This movie for these two actresses in these performances. If you ever want to learn, if you want to study acting at all, watch this freaking movie as well.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. But like I said, another one we could go on forever, but we got a game to play.
Name that movie. You guys know the drill. Type in the comments what you think this movie is based off the images. We will do 2. Here we go with the first one. I know every time there's words on it, it's so hard to read. Not Moulin Rouge, but I was going to say it's the right country as far as where it takes place.
Oh, keep going. No, it's not the one I thought it was.
Antonio got it. Amelie. And here's a little.
There. That's the image. I needed the photo booth.
Yeah, I like this little bouncing ball hitting the tile where she discovers the box of little treasures. All right, one more. Good job, Antonio. All right, here we go. I have not seen this movie.
Well
I have
done.
not seen this. We're mixing it up.
Oh, I know
Instead
what
of
this
guns,
is.
we have knives.
I know it from the first image. I know what it is. I hope other people. Oh, that also the first two.
I know. I shockingly haven't seen this.
Oh my God, this is an amazing movie,
This
Amy.
is so, and
Oh,
I have my 1001 movies you must see before you die. So they have it in order of, or you go through the main list and it's alphabetical, and they have all the movies that have numbers in their title at the beginning. This is the one movie out of that whole section that I have not seen. I've seen all the other ones.
oh wow, yeah, you definitely need to see this.
That's not
Nope,
Knives
not
Out.
Knives Out, Luke.
This movie or this book was made
I
before that movie came out.
I know exactly. I knew this from the first picture because that is a huge moment in the movie when that moment happens.
Walter, do you know it?
I feel like Walter would know it. I feel like Walter has seen this movie. It just may not be sparking the memory of it, but I have a feeling he must have seen this. It's a pretty famous movie. This actually, ironically, so your school showed you um, The Miracle Worker at some point, and that was like one of the better movies they showed you. This movie was one of the better movies that our school showed me because I still vividly remember that day in class where they showed this movie to us and they were trying to explain the process of like what it's like to be on a jury
Let's just go ahead
and
and say what
like
it is.
what happens with our justice system, how does it work. So our teacher showed us this movie
And what movie
in
is this?
order to help teach us.
What
It's
movie?
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men, which again I have not
The
seen
moment I
it,
remember
but
that it's the knife moment because part of the thing they're arguing about is like, well, that knife that he had, that they, it's such a distinctive knife. Nobody else has a knife like that, and they said that it was that knife that type of knife that killed this person. And so then Henry Fonda's like, really? And he pulls from his pocket. He has the same exact kind of knife, and he sticks it into the table next to the other one, that has the little evidence tag. And then everyone's like, oh shit, I was totally convinced he was guilty. But and he's like the only one. He's the only one who's voting not guilty, and everyone else is just convinced that that person is guilty. And the whole movie is him trying to plead his case to these people to look at all these facts and really think about this and look at it more deeply. But other people are like, I've got a game to get to. I've got this other thing to do. I want to just get out of here, And it's
I will have
great.
to add
Henry
it.
Fonda is amazing.
I will have to
Watch
watch
the
that one.
movie.
Well, thank you guys for playing, and we will do
Walter's done the play.
tomorrow. Walter, should be ashamed of yourself, Walter.
Oh,
All right,
I
let's
know,
go
but
to
great stuff. Someday we'll talk about
the
it.
main event today. Movies about movies. We are continuing with this. This is 3 of 5 that we are doing for the month, and today's is Birdman. Oh boy, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. A washed-up superhero actor attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production. This won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Directing for Alejandro G. Iñárritu, original screenplay, cinematography to Emmanuel Lubezki, who we've seen several of his films so far. With even the last few months. It was nominated for Best Actor for Michael Keaton, Best Supporting Actor for Edward Norton, Best Supporting Actress for Emma Stone, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Sound Editing, in addition to its wins. I love this movie. I'm really excited to go back and revisit this. I remember seeing this in theaters in Champaign, or kind of like, the Champaign-Urbana area in Illinois. I saw this with my oldest best friend and her mom, and we just like seeing us in theaters, and then afterwards we were just like, oh.
I know. I saw this at Telluride Film Festival. It premiered in North America at Telluride Film Festival, and it was part of this line. Telluride had this sort of string going for a while of movies that would choose Telluride to premiere in North America. Those of these Oscar hopeful movies. And so our festival had the Best Picture winner like several years in a row having their premieres at Telluride on the continent of North America. And this was one of them. And when I saw the movie, I mean, we'd already had, I think, a couple Best Picture winners by this point. And I was like, this is the next one. I guarantee you this is the next one. Right when I saw it, and we all loved it. But there was obviously some people like, people who loved, there was another movie that they loved that didn't win Best Pictures. They were like, that one sucks. I'm like, well, you suck because this movie's amazing. And I haven't actually seen it since Telluride. I saw it there, but it was so vivid.
Years. I think this might be the third time I see this movie. So still not super familiar with it enough to know everything that happens and remember it. This movie, among other things, is known for its overall appearance of it being done in one take. I mean, there are cuts, but this whole movie has 16 cuts in the whole movie.
Which is insane.
Yeah, and with that, I was just reading on its IMDb page. Apparently, the editing, now I don't know if this includes the special effects editing, but at least the basic editing of this movie took under 2 weeks. Because they were like, you just have to piece 16. That's just how it works.
Just tell us what the best takes are, and we'll put them together for you.
There we go. And because of that, and again, this is all stuff I was just getting from the IMDb trivia section. There were some interesting points when you make a movie like that, because knowing that that's the look it's going to be, you have to really make sure before you start filming that you cut everything out that you want to cut out, because you can't cut it out afterwards because it's going to give that effect that you want. Another thing. Oh, and also they shot this in sequence, which is also unusual for a lot of movies. This was filmed at the Broadway's St. James Theatre. This was also something that Iñárritu, he was planning on doing this movie a little bit later, even though he'd had an idea for this. He also co-wrote the screenplay, but they ended up doing this film because they were waiting for Leo to finish working on Wolf of Wall Street so then they could get working on The Revenant, and that was going to take a little bit longer. And so they managed to squeeze this movie in before they started working on The Revenant, which of course he also won for. Movie. And they filmed this. It was like under 2 months. This was a quick movie with, of course, extensive rehearsals. Every time you do these long takes, that's a fun thing for actors to do. Fun and challenging. I guess Michael Keaton and Edward Norton, they had a little tab going of which actors would screw up the takes the most. And Emma Stone was the one that messed the takes up the most. Zach Galifianakis messed them up the least. And even when he did mess it up, he's just like such a great improviser. He was able to kind of like play it off, and some of those even made it into the film. This is a very self-reflective movie, especially for some of the actors in it. Of course, Michael Keaton. He plays an actor who is known for playing this old superhero character named Birdman, and they compare so much of this to Batman, even to like the last time there's a line where he's like, I haven't worn that suit since 1993, and that was like the last Batman movie he was in. Edward Norton is basically playing a parody of himself, of being someone who's like a little difficult to work with. I don't know. What do you think of this movie, Samir?
I loved it. I really dug the self-reflexive, take on us. It's not so much just about movie making as much as it is like, we've had like the movie about movies, and we have like the movie about a movie maker, and that becomes a movie about movies in that sense. So it's like we're getting movies about movies from all these different sides, and this one's very much like from the side of the actor, like somebody who was a celebrity and is so identified with this one character. And of course, I was drawn to it because I absolutely loved those Tim Burton Batman movies that he was in, those first two, Batman and Batman Returns, because those come out right in my, I was right as after I hit puberty, or right around that age. I was like preteen and teen age boy, and that was your time. But a weird, artsy, like film loving horror movie nerd kid. You know, so like, I don't know, those movies were exactly what I was looking for out of Batman. And I was passionately in love with those movies. We had the posters, t-shirts, we had all the stuff for these movies when they were out. So I've always had that kind of like, no matter what Michael Keaton is in, there's a part of me that's always like, oh, Batman. You know, like a little bit. So it was like, here's a movie that's really like taking that history of his career into the context of this whole story and building it around that. So he really sort of gets to not really exercise that part of his career, but really use it for something new and different, that really helped him plumb like greater depth as an actor, and probably the best role he's ever had. And it's the filmmaking craft was like always like totally absorbing, and that in itself kind of called attention to cinema, because there's like, you know, the cuts are very much like the cuts in Rope. It's like the same kind of scheme visually that's been worked with Rope, where it's long takes, very choreographed camera movements, and then sort of like the movement in and out of like something to get to black and out really quickly, but to disguise the cut. You know, so you're not really looking for the cuts, you're just completely absorbed with the storytelling. I just loved, there's so many little things buried all over in it. I thought all the even Emma Stone, who I normally don't think is like that great. I think she's entertaining and fun, but like this was like, oh, this is like a real performance we got from her in this movie.
I think everyone's great in this. There was one thing that I thought was interesting. This was another trivia thing. This says, according to Iñárritu, he had dinner with director Mike Nichols in New York 2 weeks before he began shooting the movie. Iñárritu told Nichols of his plan for how he was going to shoot the movie as one long take. Nichols predicted it would be a disaster because not having the ability to use cuts and editing would inhibit the opportunities for comedy, which I find kind of insulting as an actor, because that's suggesting it's like comedy is only achieved through editing and not just like an actor's gift for comedic timing.
Right? I'm like, that's like, wait, who said that?
Mike Nichols, supposedly. I mean, that's just what's...
Sorry, Mike, that's not true. Maybe for him it is, but that's how different people work, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, Iñárritu isn't exactly like, you know, comedy wasn't the first, you know, genre that you associate with this director. So I guess you can understand why somebody who was very well known for their comedy films stretching over many decades would want to offer advice, but clearly they are not, you know, similar enough filmmakers for his advice to make sense for this movie, because I don't think the movie suffers at all for that.
No.
That's a really weird thing to say, but like I said, maybe it's just part of his filmmaking style, and that's how he understands it. You know, but
I guess, yeah.
Obviously,
as a comedic actor, I read that and I was like, but I understand as an editor too, of course, there is a lot that you can do to make something funnier, perhaps, but just to be like, it's going to be a disaster. It's like,
well. Disaster. I'm like, yeah, disastrous Best Picture Oscar winner.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, this is something. Oh yeah, we haven't even mentioned. This is a Patreon pick. Walter picked this for today. And this just happened to fit in perfectly with our movies about movies genre that we were already thinking of doing. Again, this one is a little bit different as far as like they're not actively making a movie while they're doing this. They're doing a play. So for a second we thought like, was it really a movie about making a movie? But it is the industry, and you know, so it's not totally far off.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's not so much. It's not tangential to movies about movies. I think because part of movies is the star. You know, for a lot of people, it's the star power that can drive you into the theater to see a movie too. So that's an essential element of the movie making process, and analyzing what it's like to be a movie star, associated with certain types of roles, and trying to break out of the movie audience's imagination into another role that they'll accept them in, and not knowing where you are in reality because of how much of your life has been spent in the movies as opposed to out of it, and being spent in this role where you're idolized for a character that you played as opposed to the person you are. So there's all this crossover between fantasy and reality that the character is lost in. And by the end of the movie, you don't really know where you stand as a viewer. Like, are you watching something that's being imagined that's only possible in a cinema for us to see, or is this what's really happening to this person, and there's some sort of magical realism happening that's also only possible in the movies? You know, there's like so many of these layers built into this film everywhere that I'm sorry, this is one of those ones where I do not understand the haters' viewpoint on this movie, because I can only see this as like a brilliant movie that just gets, it's rich with meaning every time you watch it, kind of thing. Like I said, I saw it twice in Telluride, so this will be the third time for me too, but I saw both of them in that one weekend because we saw it. The circumstances led to me being able to see it twice, and I did. That's how much I liked it then. So it's going to be really fun to revisit it tonight. So I was super, super excited when this was one of the options that Walter presented us this month.
Yes, and thank you very much, Walter, for suggesting this movie. This movie, like the previous two movies, is only available to rent currently. Sorry about that. Both of our movies for our double feature tomorrow are not rentals, so that might help. This movie, no, that's not what I was going to say. This movie's available to rent. Where am I going with this? Tomorrow we are doing another double feature. Tomorrow's is on the Oscars given out for hair and makeup. And tomorrow's movies will be An American Werewolf in London and Pan's Labyrinth. Both, of course, Oscar winners for that. So a really fun double feature ahead of us. Please consider donating to our Patreon, as well as getting merchandising from Redbubble. You can get fun things like coffee mugs and t-shirts and sweatshirts and tote bags, or small items like a sticker. You can get a cute little sticker. Yeah, but please enjoy Birdman. Please watch it through legal means. Pay the $4. Again, sorry that there were so many rentals this week. It just happened to work out that way. Thank you guys for watching today. Hope you enjoy Birdman, and we'll see you tomorrow for our after the movie discussion. Moving on to our weekend of amazing horror makeup.